You've seen me draft a pattern from scratch. Now let's edit an existing pattern to fit someone who is not those sizes. This is just for the skirt. What we're going to do is we're going to open up all the pattern pieces. I'm going to unfold the relevant pattern pieces, and I'm going to see the ratios from the finished garment size to the actual measurements that they suggest the sizes for. That way I can scale it up, scale it down as needed to be able to make a similar pattern that fits. Okay, so I found the instructions for this bit, and actually it's very nice in telling you what components of the dress, because it has a bunch of different options with this pattern, what components require which pieces. And so I'm looking for 18, 19, and 20 for the short skirt. Now, if you look at the figures, you can see that the midriff part actually stops at the person's waist, or it's supposed to anyway. What I'm going to do is I'm going to alter the pattern for size, and then I'm going to lay the paper pieces on top of it because I have on there marked where Rainey's waistline is. I'll lay that on top and cut the skirt accordingly. Now, go through these. See, it's spongy over here. Oh, cool. Here's piece 18. That's skirt back. It has the same pattern paper. Since the skirts are so similarly designed except for length, they have a cut line for the short skirt, and then down here they have the floor length cut line. And you also have piece 20 in this bunch. I also need piece 19. So I'm going to put this to the side, and I'm going to iron it out later. Yes, you can iron pattern paper. It's great. It's the ironing border for that. Okay, so I'm looking for 19. Here we go. Now that I know I need those pieces, I'm going to set this aside. Oh! In the design, the front of the skirt has a little bit of ruching in the front. It's gathered at the waist a little bit. So they have two different pattern pieces depending on whether you are doing the lining, which doesn't have full gathers, or the regular skirt, which does. Let me go set up the ironing board and I'll start ironing this out. Since the overlay for the skirt is going to end up the high-low thing, since that's going to end up ruffled and stuff and a bunch of ruching on the top, the base of the skirt, the gold part, is not going to have the gather in the front. So I only need pattern pieces 20, skirt front lining, and 18. So I have, you can now see the ironing board. So my former boss and also professor once told me that sewing is about 90% ironing. And that's because you have to iron the pattern pieces. You have, if you didn't make them yourself, you have to iron the fabric, replace the pattern pieces, then you have to iron it again, and then when you sew it, you have to iron the seams open, etc., etc. Now you can use steam, or you can choose not to use steam on paper. It really doesn't matter. Paper's going to hold up to it, especially pattern paper. It seems flimsy, but you can iron the crap out of this. Anyway, I'm going to cut this, and once I come back, this will all be ironed. I've got that all ironed. See? It's ironed. When I was originally looking at the drawings that the pattern came with, it looked like the waistline started at the top of the skirt. That's actually not the case. These have a very high waist. So the actual waistline actually starts here on the pattern. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore a lot of that. I'm going to measure the edges of the skirt and see how much give it has in between sizes. And then I'm going to basically size it up, draw a new one onto white trash bag this time because I'm not having the needle scratch thing anymore. And then test it out with the paper patterns for the bodice and the belt. Lay those on top, match up where the waistline is, and see how it goes. I did all the calculations. There we are. Calculations, yay, done. Now what I need to do is I need to take my white trash bag, lay it over the pattern pieces, trace it as is in one of the light colors I have over here, like light blue or something, and then measure out the amount I need to add to the seam side and go over it with the darker Sharpie. Go over that area so that I know which line to actually cut. And basically, as long as I use different colors and remember which one's which, that should be good. And it should really be obvious because it's not like I'm going from one size in the waist to another size in the chest, which I'm gonna have to do for a pattern for the party dress. I have all the calculations done now, so all I have to do is add about 6 sizes to the pattern. I have my trash bag laid out on the pattern. You may not be able to see in the video, but I can actually see through this trash bag, which has 2 layers by the way. I can see the lines of this pattern, so I can trace it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin the edge of this trash bag that folds to the fold line of the pattern. The only reason I used a black trash bag for the last mock-up was that I already had 6 pieces of patterns cut out, and I needed the pattern to not be, I needed the mock to not be so flimsy. This one doesn't really matter how flimsy it is. So this is a pattern that has the 2 lengths of skirt for one pattern. It just has a different line for you to cut at. If it's one length or another. It also tells you where the waistline is on the pattern, which is really great because I'm going to need that for when I line up the waistline for the pattern that I made over here, which the tripod is partially sitting on, like that. I'm going to line that all up to this to make sure it will fit properly. We'll probably need more colors of Sharpie to deal with that. Now for this, I'm basically just copying the pattern and adding more to it. So now that's all pinned. I can take my handy dandy pink Sharpie and trace instructions. This one will change a bit to make the curve of the skirt a little better. But now, I need to grab something that I can measure with. Here we go. Handy dandy mini measuring tape. Okay, let me lock it at what it needs to be. Ooh. Also, before I do that, I need to mark where they put the waistline on this. Here. See, now the skirt is getting a lot bigger, and this section is actually going to double because this is going to cut on fold. Let's take my picture actually. So that I can appropriately make a curve. I'll take it down there. Do a slight curve up so that the skirt won't be like very squared off at the bottom. I need to deal with all those pattern pieces that I made. I'm going to quick mark where the waistline is. And remember, these have no, what's it called? Seam allowance at all. The waistline. So right now we're going to ignore all the stuff up here because that's going to be covered by bodice. And now we're going to add the seam allowance back to that. Now we can ignore this top part. And the actual pattern is right here. Okay, now we're back. I have flipped this thing over so that 18 is facing me. So this one actually does have cut to instruction because there's a simple back seam. Now I'm not going to add anything to the center back because that has an important slight curve in the back, which I'm probably going to end up getting off anyway, to be honest, but it actually just makes more sense to add, since for other sizes they're adding more to the side seam side of the pattern piece. It makes sense for me to add more to that. Okay, now for the basic tracing. The actual pattern is traced out now. Now to add the lovely additions. Very fluffy. And this line. I swear, I've taken 4 calculus classes, but I have never used as much trig as it requires to make, especially skirts from scratch. Then I've never used that much in an actual classroom setting. If you want to learn to draft patterns, I hope you're proficient in trig, or can look things up and understand them, because otherwise you're pretty screwed, because there's a lot of drafting by hand stuff that requires trig, or at least some basic knowledge of how it works, like the Pythagorean theorem. Here's my seam allowance, and here's my center back. Well, it turns out that this is the line that I want. Okay, well, the skirt's drafted. I'm gonna cut these suckers out. After I unpin this, I'm gonna cut these suckers out, pin them together and make And ta-da! This pattern can be reused again. Once I fold it up properly, which is going to be a pain after I get all the creases. Okay, so I have them cut out now. I also marked what pattern piece it is and where the center back is on the back of this one, because this is 2 pieces as I cut off the portion of it that, you know, just the fold. Like this, which is one singular piece. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin these together in the proper way, and then I'm going to pin it to the bodice and have Rainey wear it. So this is a skirt front. It needs to be opened up. Very flimsy material and also very staticky. But that's okay. Now these have hem included, but I may end up adding hem to the actual fabric if I decide, if we decide that it's not long enough. Also, after I had cut off the recording last, I realized after starting to cut that I had not added seam allowance on top of this. So I ended up taping it back together and adding seam allowance. Add it to the bottoms. Cute little skirt. Okay, that's not recording for right now. This is probably really boring. Snap my fingers. Come down, baby down. Okay, now it is time to test out the mostly complete mock-up. The only thing it's missing is the high-low part, which I'm gonna have to do. It's also missing the pattern for the chiffon overlay top knobs. But other than that, it's a little bit above your knees, so I'm going to do a very tiny hem. But it fits fine. Need to take in, like, the butt area of the back of the skirt a little bit. That's marked. Do you like the way it fits? The ring is good. Is it just tight in the Would you like to line? Maybe they should. I mean, that's including the hem. It's like, I don't know. About that. I'm not going to give it as much of a hem as the original instructions have, because then you might show too much in the back. But, yeah. And we can decide on hem length once I actually have, because hemming it is one of the last steps. So yeah. Perfection, complete. Now to get you out of this. Also mark where the zipper needs to end in order for you to put it on over your waist or over your head at your pleasure. Yay. There we go.
What was your block that was on?
Yeah, because I lowered where the zipper needs to end. Originally it ended higher, and that wasn't going to allow enough room for your butt to get out, apparently. But I just needed it that an inch lower, and now it works. Small alteration, not big. I also had to do that. A little bit of drawing in because I added a little bit too much to the waist area. But it otherwise functions properly. And so I can start making the final mock-up because I'm not going to need to mock up the bolero because that is already in her size. The final mock-up is going to be, actually there's two mock-ups. The bodice chiffon and then the high-low chiffon, which is probably going to be a little bit harder.